excerpt is the Meistersinger von Nuremberg overture to the opera, or to the opera The Meistersinger, and we're going to touch on three major sections that you can see on any audition and are very commonly called for at auditions. The first section, you don't see too many auditions, but you definitely need to know it. A lot of times you'll see an audition where they'll just say the whole Meistersinger, as opposed to just marking off they want to hear J through K or J through L or something like that. But if they don't, be prepared to play the whole thing. Because if you do advance in an audition, they may want to hear in the first round just the opening to this, and right down through letter A. And in the second round or in the finals, they may want to hear J through K or J through L or something like that. So you really need to be prepared for the whole thing. Now the opening to this overture is marked molto tenuto. And basically what that means is the notes are full value, okay, very long and not connected, but, and you got to be careful with this, no spaces. Just think no spaces, all right? So molto tenuto, no spaces, very long, okay? And watch your attack. There is no accents on these notes, all right? So I use a very, very light ta type of attack, all right, to make sure that I'm not marking the note, which we will do later on at letter J, but I'm just making a good attack and clean attack on the notes. So anyway, the opening to the Meistersinger sounds like this. First of all, can use your own parts, and I recommend highly bring your own parts with you. And the reason for this is that you want to mark in every single breath, every single dynamic that you put, every single decrescendo, crescendo, mark your phrasings. You want to put as many of these little reminders on every single excerpt that you own, and use your own personal excerpts at the audition. For this, the reason behind this is that in an audition, you're going to have nerves going and all kinds of stuff happening, internally, that you want to make sure that you're reminding yourself of what you should be doing on the paper, and these are just little reminders like breath marks and stuff like that. And you want to make sure that under pressure that you have these reminders, backing you up. One of the things that I like to say too is if you do not see the Meistersinger on an audition, consider yourself lucky, all right? Because this will be on probably 99% of every audition that you'll take, whether it's a college audition, or if it's a local regional orchestra or a major orchestra, it doesn't matter. You need to have this prepared. So anyway, the opening. We talk about phrasing and breathing, all right, and tempo. Tempos, when you listen to recordings of this, can range anywhere from 92 to 112, okay? So it's a pretty vast range of tempos. You want to find a tempo that is accommodating for anybody to listen to. I happen to use a tempo of about 104, which I think is a good middle level tempo for this whole excerpt. And I use the metronome whenever I'm practicing this excerpt. So right now, let's talk about the very first couple of notes in the opening. We have a descending line, C, B, A natural to an A natural octave. Okay? First breath mark is right there at the end of that. Now, phrasing. Okay? The first two notes note, the G, is going to take off right where you left on the A. So it sounds like this. Okay, and again, you're aiming for the low C. All the notes need to be driving down and moving forward to the low C. Into the next phrase. That's where my next breath mark is. And then continuing on. Okay, next phrase, all right? So we're driving up to the F, and then we're moving the F to the D. Okay, and then continuing on. So you're putting all that together. And I'm going to use the metronome. Individually. Now, you got a little ascending line, continuing on, building with intensity. Okay? Now, one of the things that I want to make clear, and we're going to see this in the next section, is when you breathe, even though these notes are full value, you need to make sure that you take a little bit off of the long notes and put a breath in there so it's in time. If you hold the notes full value and then try to get a breath in there, you're going to be off. Here's a demonstration of what that sounds like. See, I missed the entrance. So I'm going to take a little bit off of the notes so I can make sure my entrance is there, okay, and in time, all right, especially with the longer notes. So you want to make sure that, you know, whether it's an eighth note, think of chopping an eighth note off of all the long notes, whatever works for you, but make sure that it's in time. So here's the next section with the metronome. Okay, so I'm cutting off about an eighth note just to make sure that I am in time. So again, we've got octave Fs. They must be perfectly in tune, driving down to a D. Okay, and then breath, next phrase. Now these eighth notes, when you see these eighth notes like this, these are all pickups going into the next downbeat. Okay, so ba 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 ba. All right, and you want to emphasize, you know, not so much where the target is, the E natural, or any of these downbeats, but you want to make sure you're getting there by way of the eighth notes before. So each eighth note should build with intensity within itself. So each note is clear and it's showing that motion, all right? And then it continues on, all right, with the next one. All right, now this descending line, I break this descending line up into 1, 2, 3 little small phrases, okay? 3 small phrases. Even though I'm not taking a breath throughout this descending line, I'm breaking this out. All right, so it sounds like this. So from the top G sharp, actually I do the 3 pickup notes going into the into the F sharp, I'm sorry. All right, so I want to hear every single note, where they're supposed to go, where they resolve to. So again, breaking it down. Descending line, and we want to bring forward motion to it, okay? So again, putting this whole section together with the breathing, and then I'll continuing on. Off, downbeat. You just want to show forward motion getting to the downbeats. Just practice those by themselves, okay? So again, now moving on, we've got, I'm going to put it again from the beginning, and I'm going to stop later on where I've got now a long, long, deep ascending line, and I'm going to stop there and talk about that. Actually, I'm just going to play from this ascending line here. There's a lot of stuff going on here. You want to approach this ascending line just like you've approached all the other 8-note runs going into the downbeats. So, the first 2 notes leading into the 3rd, all right, and eventually the 4th leading into the 5th note, stopping at the E. So beat 2 through 4 lead into the next downbeat. Okay, and this is now where we're going to now take these ascending little places here, and we're going to break these out into little small micro phrases. So again, we have each one of these 3 8th notes leading into the downbeat. Section, which is this D. And if you notice, I did not breathe after the D, even though I've got my tank of gas is running on empty at this point. Do not breathe because it resolves the low G at letter A a little bit more nicer, and it ties it all together. So again, it sounds like this, and also I put a crescendo, a slight crescendo on the high D when I get there, just to lead it forward into the letter A. Pound that low G. It doesn't need to be really loud, but here's what it sounds like if I take a breath now before the G. Okay? I just don't think it ties in as well. Okay? You can do it either way. In a performance situation, you may want to do that, but I think in an audition situation, take that breath out if you can, and don't play that breath. So again, I mark all my breathing, I've marked my phrases out here. These are reminders, so when I actually do take an audition, or if you do take an audition, I won't take any more auditions, but if you do take an audition, make sure you have all these pencil markings marked in there. Your phrases and everything must be marked, so this is the way you remind yourself of what you're supposed to be doing while you perform this. One thing to keep in mind is that you're not auditioning for tuba players. This is not a weightlifting contest. This is a audition in front of the cello player. You're going to have a principal trumpet, trombone. You're going to have some people in the string section on it. You're going to have the conductor. They do not care about the technical attributes of the horn. All they care about is the music that's coming out of the bell and what you're capable of doing with that. So I'm going to play this one more time from the beginning, and I'm going to exaggerate my phrases. All right, I'm going to exaggerate my crescendos, and I'm going to exaggerate backing off, okay? And I'm going to play it like this. Now, let's move on. Let's talk and go through letter J. I'm going to go through J through L. If you do not see the beginning on an audition, you're definitely going to see this on your auditions. This is an amazing string basses. And this section here, unlike the opening, which is marked molto tenuto, this is now marked marcato. All right, now marcato is basically just means marking the beginning of your entrances of each note, or marking the attack of each note. It's not a heavy accent. It does not mean staccato, which, you know, whenever I teach and I have a student going through this, I ask them, what does marcato mean? And you'll be amazed at how many people say it means accented, or it means short or staccato. If Wagner wanted short and staccato written in here, he would have, believe me or not, he would have written it in here, but it's not. Just you're marking the beginning of each note with a little stronger attack. It's a marked note. So it sounds like this. Goes into the trill on this thing. The trill is not the be-all, end-all of this section of the excerpt, okay? I've heard a lot of people do trills with just fingers on C tuba. It's really difficult. I think if you can coordinate a finger trill with your lip trill, great. And as long as it's clear, that's the most important thing. I found it's easier to just develop the lip trill. Also, one of the other things to consider, and I didn't bring my F tuba with me, but the other thing to consider is play this on F tuba. This actually works very well, and the trill is, on every F tuba I've ever played, and every audition I've ever played, I have played this on F tuba, and the trill is automatic, it's on the money, and that's one of the primary reasons for doing it. In an audition situation, trying to rely on a lip trill, I'm not strong enough, my nerves just kick in, and I'm just not able to do the lip trill, or I haven't been able to do a lip trill, so I have chosen to always play this on F tuba. But again, I'm going to go back. I'm going to clean the lip trill up. I'm going to give it another shot. So I'm just going to go back a little bit. I'll play it one more time from the beginning. Again, we're looking at marking the notes. I think that every excerpt that you practice an approach, you need to practice it as if you were playing a solo. Alan Baer said it very nicely. He basically approaches all his excerpts as if he were giving a recital. And that's really the way you need to do it, all right? So, in the beginning, the opening phrase. Okay? We have 3 Gs. Each G must lead into go, where we get the F. Just like in the beginning, those three notes are leading in. Okay, to the F. Then these next three notes lead into the D. Okay, so we have the beginning. Alright, and then what I just played here. Okay, same exact concept. D, da, blah, ba, lead into the C. The B natural has to drive, it resolves. And then continuing on. Lead into the E. There's a little high point right there that we want to show so we can resolve down into the D now. We got that fourth going. Okay? And you want to break this out. Now, one of the things I want to talk about right now is breathing. I got the metronome on, 104. I'm gonna subdivide this. Okay? And you're going to see, I'm going to, on all my long notes, I'm taking out a portion of the tied notes, and I'm going to make sure that I lead, let me get the eighth note here on mix real quick. I'm going to basically cut just enough off the tied notes to insert my breath. And you want to use the eighth note subdivision going here with your metronome, and it sounds like this. Every time I take a breath, you can hear the eighth note in there on the metronome, and you want to practice that. You can also practice it like this, because time has to be so steady and rock solid, so again, practice it like this. Here's another exercise. Where I take my breath, I do not play the eighth note because it's going to be short and it's going to be out of time. So here's where I'm going to play the eighth note, where I would normally put a rest, but I'm going to try to sneak the breath in. But you're going to hear it's a struggle. Okay, I really couldn't take a breath. So again, with the breath in there, I take the eighth note out. Okay, so you want to take that breath out. Play the eighth notes on the long beats or on the quarter notes to make sure that you are rock solid all the way through this. All right, so now moving on, I want to go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars, the 9th bar with the pickup after J. This is the section where you have to play. You take a breath before this section here, but you must play this whole thing in one breath. Okay, that must be played in one breath, and then you can breathe afterward. But from here's where we're now building. Okay, we are starting to build. So your dynamic level, you want it under control. It's not blasting, and you're going to build and you're going to drive towards the long notes. Okay, so now I got to the D, and now I'm answering it with this E, all right, and then I'm going into now the next group of eighth notes, which drive me into the quarter notes. Okay, so now I'm at the G, quarter notes driving up to the E. Do not put a blastissimo into these quarter notes driving. You just want to show direction. Okay? And you got to practice that where I screwed that up. But you want to practice taking the breath after the E and hitting and nailing that D every time. These three notes going into the trill, practice it down an octave. Okay, practice that down an octave. So down an octave, the whole thing sounds like this. So we're at 1, 2, 3, 4th bar of 4K. Okay? So you want to practice that down an octave. You want to make as much music out of that as possible. All right? So, again, going back to where I started just before. Now, letter K, molto legato, all right, letter K. So let's compare letter K with what we played at J and also in the beginning. We have molto tenuto in the beginning, which means long and connected, all right, but we're going to still place an attack there. We have marcato at J, which means mark the note, but keeping full value. We are not playing the staccato, all right? Now at K, we have molto legato, which now we are going to slur, okay? So it sounds like this in letter K. The phrasing is no different than what we've been working on in the beginning and also at letter J. You still want to look at the phrasing the same way. Each phrase has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and can stand on its own. So at letter K, I put a little crescendo, all right, through the G. And then I get to my A, put a slight decrescendo. The slight decrescendo on the A, all right, sets me up for my next pickup after I breathe. So this way I have room to grow. All right, so this way I've got room to move, getting me to the C natural here. All right. And then I put a nice crescendo in this last section here, so it sounds like this. Bringing out the E, all right? And I'm moving all these notes to the E. A lot of music here. So putting all that together from K. Don't want to play it exactly the same because then it becomes redundant, all right? So you need to figure out musically what you want to do here after K. And I'm talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th bar after K, which is what we already heard. So I put a little more intensity on this. Forte there. And if we're already starting at forte at K, why would Wagner write più forte here? It's because he's allowing the musician to make sense, and just because it puts forte in the line in the beginning, and again, from K, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dynamic markings, and they're all forte, except at the end where it says double forte. So we are allowed to explore around that forte level. We can drop down a little bit. We can go a little bit above. But again, they're guidelines. You need to put the extra music and read between the lines. All right? So after K, 1, 2, 3, the repeated section now, going into the pianoforte. I really, really want to bring that out and put that little extra crescendo in there. Backed off right there. Breath. Backed off a little bit because now I'm going to drive home that pianoforte. And I'm going to decrescendo now, slightly. With a breath. I want to be about a mezzo forte here, all right? Because now one of the things here is we have these, each bar is an ascending line, repeating the same type of rhythm, going all the way through L. You do not want to breathe on after every single dotted quarter note from here to the end, because it just breaks up everything that's going on. So I purposely write in 2 breaths, all right? So if you play it with a breath mark before L on every single bar, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4th bar from the going before L. It sounds like this, and this is with a breath mark in between every single quarter note, a dotted quarter. It just makes no sense. It's very redundant, and it becomes boring. When something becomes redundant, it means it's predictable. If the audience or the audition committee can predict what you're going to do, you have lost their attention because they know where you're going and they don't need to hear it. So I play it like this. Breaths in there. It makes much more musical sense. So again, you got to really look at this whole thing, how each phrase, relates to one, the one after. Where is it coming from? And then make the most music as possible out of this. One of the things I want to just talk about in finishing this one up is, again, the rhythm. Put your 8th notes on and take the breath out where the very last part of the tied notes are. This way you have room to put that breath in. Sorry, one more time. Rhythm on this, if you're a great musician, if you've got the music, that's one thing. And it needs to be there. And that's probably, to me, the most important thing. You've got to have the music, and it's got to be musical. The second most important thing is making sure rhythm is consistent and it's steady all the way through. It must be rock solid. And that's with anything that you play for any audition, for any excerpt that you must do. So you always have the metronome on. An exercise to do to work the trill is just play the A by itself, and I have a lip trill exercise that you can do on your own, but use the metronome and just play quarter notes, triplets, and then 16th notes. Again, I do it on all the open intervals, but just on the A to B natural interval, it sounds like this. And this is at 120. Wait, let me take the subdivision out of here. Hang on. And just work on that by itself. Turn the metronome on up to 130. Turn the metronome up to 140. Turn the metronome up to 150. One more time. My chops don't have it right now. I'll just cut the triplets out because that's the hardest part to do. So again, last shot, quarter notes, eighth notes, and then sixteenths at 150. Okay, and just practice that by itself. The lip trill will develop. And again, what I do for the trill, first two notes, I use the fingers just to get it going, and after that, it's the trill. And develop that, and really work on that. But again, focus more on the music, the articulations, the phrasing, the breathing, and the rhythm. That's going to be the key with the big, beautiful sound. Good luck. This is probably one of the excerpts you need to spend more time on than any of the other excerpts out there because of all the things that we've covered. Anyway,